Hey, what's up? Silas here. So, finally got to watch the Black Panther film, and for the first time in my adult life, I'm proud to be Kenyan. I'm proud to be African. In this dark continent, this once dark continent, finally, hope has arrived. So, I'm just kidding with that. But what the quote? The quote is a play on something Michelle Obama said that I'll get to soon, but definitely watch Black Panther. Great film. I just watched that yesterday. And yeah, I'll have a review for that up in a few days. But this is what Michelle Obama said during the Wisconsin primary back in mid February of 2008. And you'll be able to actually get links to this article so you can read it because I'll be referencing it a couple of times in this video. So she said this: "For the first time in my adult life, I'm really proud of my country because it feels like hope is finally making a comeback." And as it's pointed out in this article, it says Michelle Obama made a remark that the Republicans will use to hammer her husband should he win the Democratic nomination. And he did win the Democratic nomination, and he did become the President of the United States. And Republicans and people on the right did use this to call Michelle Obama and Barack Obama racist. I'm not saying they're not racist, but they're not racist for saying this. This was a thing that she said, and as it's mentioned here, Cindy McCain told reporters that she said this right after. "I have and always will be proud of my country." And it says here that both Michelle and her husband tried to explain that she was proud to see people coming out to vote. Now, is it black people coming out to vote? Is it minorities coming out to vote? Women coming out to vote? I don't think that's really something you can tell from this quote in and of itself, even without that addition of that second part. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about the importance of what is said and what isn't said, and the person viewing that. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There might be something going on here where it's like understanding or no, what is it? Intention is in the eye of the witnesser or something like that. I'll develop that and probably put it on a shirt or something. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know of that saying. Because here we go with this. Another thing that you can think of this happening is the comments that President Donald J. Trump said during his initial run for the presidency when he declared. This is paraphrasing. He was talking about the illegal immigration over the southern border coming through Mexico. And if you know anything about those numbers, the figures of the people, I think it's over 80% or something like that. 8 in 10 of the females who come across have experienced some form of sexual assault. Now, that ranges from probably groping all the way to rapes and things like that, which is horrendous. So he was talking about that, and he said they're not sending their best. He said there are rapists in there, and people focus on that part of it and say he's racist, he hates Mexican people. Now they focus on that, but they don't focus on the part that he added right after when he said, and I'm sure some of them are good people. No, let's discount that because we have certain political agenda, so we're going to focus on something that shows us that yes, this man is racist. He's racist for that. He hates Mexicans. Some people on the right have their political agenda. They hear what Michelle Obama said and they focus on that and say, yes, this is proof, this is definitive proof that she's a racist, and let's go with that. So how exactly do you know what somebody intends? How exactly do you hear something or see something and then you say, okay, that's something that's in it to me. That's something that speaks to me. That's something that that person intended to say. That's something that I'm going to take and run with that, and that's going to inspire me to do things, or it's going to hold me down from doing things. How do you get to the situation where you look at a make-believe superhero, or how do you get people to believe that they can be heroes in the making? That's one thing that I'm trying to understand with this. I'll probably use that as a title for this video, actually. So, coming back to this thing, how do you know what Michelle Obama was saying? As I said before, I don't think this is proof that she's racist. But I'm not necessarily discounting the fact that she's at least racial. And check this out, what she said later. It's also in this article. "My experiences at Princeton have made me far more aware of my blackness than ever before. I have found that at Princeton, no matter how liberal and open-minded some of my white professors and classmates try to be towards me, I sometimes feel like a visitor on campus, as if I really don't belong. Regardless of the circumstances under which I interact with whites at Princeton, it often seems as if to them I will always be black first and a student second. And it says that she further suggests that even if she assimilates into white society after Princeton, she will remain on the periphery of society, never becoming a full participant. Now, when I see things like this, I see people who do couch their whole identity in blackness. It is common for this kind of social justice warrior, leftist, collectivist type of identity politics thing to come out and be in a group and say, and open up, like, if for me, I would have opened up my video and said, I, as a black male, African, cisgendered, etc., and then I would go in and start saying what I'm doing instead of just getting into the content. So with these people, they are defining themselves as a tribe, as a certain group, as an out group. It's not only done by black people, but in this case, we're talking about what's happening with black people, both in this situation, Michelle Obama, and also going further with the Black Panther film, and then now also transitioning into this thing that just recently happened with LeBron James and Laura Ingraham. Apparently, you guys know who LeBron James is, and this is a thing. This is another thing. Things that are unsaid, things that are ignored, things that people talk about. So LeBron James talks about politics a lot. He said something about Donald J. Trump, criticized Donald J. Trump, and then Laura Ingraham, who's she has a TV show. She has a news show on Fox News Network, Fox News Channel. I don't know if it's still the Fox News Network or channel since some of it was sold off. But yeah, anyway, so she was saying, shut up and dribble to LeBron James. And this was LeBron James's response to that. Also, links below to this article so you guys can check it out too. He says, we will definitely not shut up and dribble. I will definitely not do that, James told reporters. I mean too much to society. I mean too much to the youth. I mean too much to so many kids who feel like they don't have a way out and need somebody to help lead them out of the situation they're in. Now, as expected, shouldn't be surprised to anybody who's been watching Western politics for the last 10 years, let alone the last 2 years, where it has just ratcheted up. Last 2 to 3 years, it's ratcheted up. People started calling Laura Ingraham racist for this, for saying, shut up and dribble. Even Kevin Durant, second best player in the NBA, said, yeah, it was ignorant and racist. And later on in this is also a quote where, I'll just actually read it here. LeBron James was asked if he thought her comments were racist, and he said, do I feel her comments were racist? Well, listen, race is a part of our country, and we know that, James said. I think the engine that she sits behind doesn't have a great rap sheet when it comes to race in our country and things of that nature. I'm just trying to shed a greater light and positive light on the bad aura or energy that some of the people are trying to give to the people of America and to the world. I'm not the negative side. Me having this platform, I'm just trying to shed a positive light on what I feel is right. Am I always right? Can I have everybody follow me? I don't think so. But I'm looking at my boys right here, teaching them what's right, what's wrong, and we see what happens after that. With this comment from LeBron James, as I said before with the Michelle Obama thing, the Donald J. Trump thing, what's said is important, what's not said is also important. He did not come out here and just say, no, I don't feel it was racist. When people talk about Donald J. Trump, they say, oh, do you believe so-and-so said this? Do you believe such and such is racist? Do you believe such and such is hateful? And he doesn't just come out and say, no, yes, I agree. It's not the truth. It's not racist. This person is hateful. I dislike this. Simple answer. People say, why is he talking about all these other things? Why is he obfuscating? That's proof that he actually thinks this bad thing that we think he thinks. So in this situation, I can transpose that and say, why couldn't he just come out and say, no, I didn't think it was racist? Do you think there's people out there, how many people out there who thought what she said was racist because other people have said it, because they're projecting their own intentions onto her? How many of those people heard what LeBron James said here and said, okay, yeah, LeBron James changed my mind. I think he doesn't think it was racist either. Or how many people just continued to be like, yeah, see, LeBron James is agreeing. But he is more than an athlete. And that's true. He said that. I don't even disagree with that. He posted this thing on Instagram 3 days ago. It's got almost 1.5 million likes where he just says, I'm more than an athlete. It's in some neon type thing on a wall. I don't know if he's had that with himself or he set it up after. It'd be rather amazing. I wouldn't even be surprised if he set it up after, because he does have a business acumen. He does have that ability. He does have a team around him, and he wore shoes with this on it. It's become a thing. So I do get that that's part of it, but he comes out and says that. So you have to ignore when you talk about this racist situation. You talk about this problem that black people have in the United States of America, especially someone like LeBron James. You have to first of all ignore all the people who tell Donald J. Trump all the time to shut up and stop tweeting and be the president. Are those people being racist? Barack Obama also tweeted, if I was like, I wish Barack Obama had stopped tweeting and done more things presidential, would I have been racist for saying that, even if I appear to be black and things like that? Now, coming back to this thing, you have to also ignore the fact that he is the best athlete at something that he's doing. He's the best in the world at what he does. He also has millions of dollars. He might be the first $1 billion basketball player. So he has all these other things that are positive in his life that empower him, that give him a position to talk about these things. I actually don't think he should shut up and dribble. I think it's kind of positive that people are out there talking about these things because, like, for example, the simple thing, if he did go out to talk about that, I would be able to include this in this video and hopefully try to make my point even more. Even if it's just not just activating people more politically, because I think most of the people in the political establishment probably do not want people to be as active and as aware of politics as they're becoming to be. So if somebody can please explain to me how what she said was racist. I mean, I have this video talking about the difference between something that's racial and something that's racist. So, for example, if you have a basketball team and then you say, okay, look, I have people who are the same height, seem to be same kind of athleticism, and then I decide I'm going to pick all the black people. Half of them are black, half of them are white, and I say, I'm going to pick all the black people. Now, that is a racial decision. It's not necessarily racist. But if it was a situation where I'm saying, I need people to play in my basketball team, and then only those 5 non-black people came up and said, yeah, we'll play, and I said, no, I'm not going to let any of you play, but I'm going to try and get this one black guy who doesn't even want to play on my team. Now that is racist. So you see the difference there. So when you come to this situation that LeBron James, that this comment is racist, you have to ignore the fact that he plays in a league where the majority of the players are black. So, but that goes against the black oppression narrative. You have to ignore the fact that he is the best in the world at something. And millions, if not billions of the people all around the world acknowledge him for his abilities, not due to his race, but mostly because of what he can do, what he has done, what he will do. So you have a situation where people are talking about the Black Panther, how this is finally something inspirational. They can finally see a black man doing something. Why have they not been looking at LeBron James for the last 15 years he's been in the league, 13 years or something? Why do they not take in the same kind of inspiration from Barack Hussein Obama, the former president of the United States of America? What more do you need? Oh, you need a black superhero so you can go out there and actually be heroic on yourself. I don't get it. Please, somebody just try to make that connection for me. I'm not really getting it, but I'll get into why I might not be getting it later on in this video. See if you guys agree with me. But that's a key thing to identity politics and all these kind of things. You have to ignore certain things. It's almost as much of what is not said than what is said. Now, more on this thing. With this film, as if you guys have seen, I'm really thankful to everybody who's commented on the previous Black Panther video, and interacting with people in the comment section has been a pleasure of mine over the last couple of days. But you have some people going like, Black cast so woke. That's why they're hyped up. That's what they're liking about the film. Like, finally, we got these black superheroes. We got these black characters. We got this black Africa. A lot of funny memes. Also linked to some memes about this thing. There's this where it's like, hey, Dad, have you watched the new Black Panther film? And then there's this like white guy and he's like 50s wearing like a dashiki with like the matching like hat, and he's like, enough said. People are wearing that kind of outfit to the actual movie theater, and they're getting psyched up about that. So they're also ignoring the fact that that white guy who was in that meme, he was the kind of guy that made this film. Okay, skinnier guys, but it was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby invented the character. Jack Kirby, I think more than Stan Lee, invented the character of Black Panther and ran that, built the mythos and all that stuff. So there's also people on the other side of the spectrum People are saying that it's a proud isolationist nation. That yes, it's alt-right. It's alt-right. People are saying like, look, this is what we're talking about. We need our ethno state, just like Wakanda. You guys are celebrating this. Now, if you actually watch the film, you'll see there's a lot of actual things that go into that whole stance of this. It's not as black and white. It's the Gray Panther. So you have that situation, and then even some people who are saying this, who do call themselves white or do identify with this white ethnicity, they will also conveniently not count the Jews of Kirby and Lee in this sense as non-whites. I think Stan Lee's also Jewish. I know Jack Kirby is. But yeah, so in some situations when people are saying like, look, this is a movie that you're paying money to white people, aka these Jewish people and things like that, they will ignore that Jews in some situations are not considered white. But anyway, there's a lot of just stuff here where I'm wondering, okay, to make the claim that you really need to see people who look like you for you to be able to do something, then if you look at Africa, there's at least 30 countries of people that look like them. If you look at Haiti, which I made a previous video about those comments that President Trump said about Haiti, that people said he said about Haiti, and then he didn't really actually say it about Haiti. It turned out he said it about African countries and other places. Well, anyway, my boy Newt agrees with me on this. He has Haitian ancestry. I think he has relatives and things like that. He still goes back and forth in there and the United States of America. And he was talking about how, yes, there are really places that are bleep holes there. There's places here in Kenya that are bleep holes. There's places in the United States of America that are bleep holes. But be honest about that. And that's another thing. That's something that goes unsaid. People talk about this. People know this about these countries, but they don't say it. And I think part of the reason that people don't look at these countries here in Africa, they don't look at countries like Haiti, because I think that will go against the narrative of black excellence that they want to buy into. Now, if you look at these countries, and I do get, if that actually is important, please do look at these countries. Because there's be times I'll be on a matatu, that's the public transport, one of the public transport systems here, and I'll just see like mass transit, not public transport, mass transit. So I'll see some matatu tout, and those are the guys who get you onto the bus, and then they take money, you pay them, they're kind of like conductors. I don't know what the actual term would be for it, the anglicized term for what they would be. Anyway, I think tout actually works. Anyway, so you'll see them and I'll see them like, hey, that guy kind of looks like T.I. a little bit. He's a rapper or something like that. Or I'll hear some musician from Angola or something, finally see the music video, like this, what was it? Windek. I'll leave a link to that Windek video. And I'll see that Windek video and be like, hey, that guy kind of looked like this one guy I played football against back in high school or something, or back in college. And you'll see that. So there is something about that. And I do get for some people and a lot of people, there is something about seeing somebody who looks like them doing something, and then that kind of inspires them to kind of go out and do something more, have some kind of connection to that. And I can relate to that somewhat, like seeing locations in the Black Panther film, which again, great film. Saw some locations where I was like, hey, this place has this kind of African feel to the architecture. And here in Nairobi, Kenya, a lot of the stuff is copied from abroad. I have like Italian villas or all different kind of styles. I'm not good with actual names of architecture styles, but some of them will just be completely like, let's just save as much building materials as possible. So let's just put up the square building, paint this color on it, and voila. So to see kind of this futuristic, technologically advanced, African-inspired kind of architecture was African-inspired, Sub-Saharan African, just in general, I was like, yeah, that's pretty sweet to see that. It was kind of, it was a good touch of the film. Definitely go watch it. But anyway, so I get that. I get part of being human is looking at who is better off. So you're not necessarily going to look at an African country, because if you think about this, for you who don't know, African Americans, black people in the United States of America as a whole, if you took them only, 13% of the population, they are doing well off than any African country in the world. So I understand why they're not looking down at countries that are doing worse or groups of people that are doing worse. They're looking at the small percentage of white people above them or people in their society above them that are closer to them and saying, we want to be like that, or things like that. You see this in feminists. Feminists are not focusing on the 95% of workplace deaths, the men working in those kind of jobs, not focusing on the majority of homeless people being males. They're focusing on that small percentage of males above them, and that goes with the Pareto principle, that goes with hypergamy. There's a lot of reasons to this, so I understand there is some actual natural reasoning for some of these things and things like that. Now I'm going to articulate a bit about myself and why I may not be able to completely relate to this whole that person looks like me, so I'm going to actually connect with that person or be empowered and inspired by simply seeing somebody that looks like me do something. So, I was born in Paris, France, mentioned that before, lived there for 5 years and moved to Kenya. So, in my first time, of course, first years in France, different temperature, different climate, my parents, my brother, older brother at that time, looked like me, skin wise. I mean, even going to the familial part, I think children can already pick up certain facial features and things like that. We had people come visit. They worked in an environment where there were other black people. Paris, even back in the 80s, was a rather metropolitan, diverse, ethnically like area or society, city. It didn't just start now. I mean, the whole immigration movement has increased, but it's not something completely brand new. Whenever you're talking about a capital city, a major city like that, that has been the way it goes all through, I think, since capital cities were existed. That's actually the part of the point of capital cities. So yeah, you might have had just white people there before there was transcontinental travel to the point that it is existing now. But even in that point, as a lot of race realists will point out, Europe is a very diverse place. Having Hungarians and Germans and Prussians and things like that in Paris does make for a rather diverse and interesting group of people. But I digress. Coming back to this thing. So I'm there, I go to kindergarten, my friends out there, I'm playing with kids in the playground, getting to know places. I even learned French when I was 5. I saw this report card that came out. It's like, hey, your kid can speak French. I was like, well. Anyway, I don't remember that at that age. So I leave when I'm 5. I come to Kenya, and then now more people have skin color of the ranges in a range that I have. I see like my uncle, and I'm like, he kind of looks familiar to my dad. I see my nieces and, I mean, not nieces and nephews, but cousins, and play around with them, talk to them, and see them, and then yes, they look more like me or like people who are like my parents and things like that. So more people look like me, but one thing that's different, they speak a different language than I do. They eat different foods. I guess my parents did a pretty good job of keeping the foods, but when you go around, there's different smells, there's different feels, there's different temperature, there's different climate. So it's like, look, all these people that look like me are in a place where everything else is essentially not like things that I thought were part of who I was or part of who I was building up my self-identity as. So there's a point there where you're like, okay, so just looking like you is not as important as what those people do or where they are or how they have adjusted to that environment. So this could have started the build already. And then that change also came later on with the move to the United States of America. It came where we were picking between the United States of America or Zimbabwe. Those are the two places that my parents were like, those are the two places we could go. And I remember looking at the news articles or looking at things, I think was it online or magazines? This was before the internet. This was in 93 around there, so very basic internet, some TV shows. But anyway, I remember checking the price of PlayStations, and it was cheaper in Zimbabwe than the United States of America, and that was one thing that was really making me and my brother pull for Zimbabwe. And also there was like really old videos. You'd see this thing called the KKK, the actual white nationalist racist people. They were burning some crosses in yards of people who looked like me, were black. And I was thinking, okay, I don't want to chance that. If that's what's happening in the United States of America, do not want that to actually happen. So we were thinking at that point, go to Zimbabwe. And you look at the two countries now, and what some people on the left imagine is happening or Donald J. Trump will do to the United States of America is essentially what is actually happening in reality in Zimbabwe right now. So even despite that, I'm glad with the choice that we decided to move to the United States of America. And there's some issues coming from that, but dealing with those. But yeah, that's kind of some background to why I may not buy in as much to this whole somebody who looks like me. And part of the reason why some people may buy into it is they grew up in a situation where a lot of the people looked like them, and maybe that was something more valuable to them in their mindset. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. So another point I'd like to address is the whole creative process, the inventive process. What actually gets you to be able to create something new, or for you to be inspired to do something with your life? Do you have to see somebody who looks like you? As I said, I don't think I have that in me to the same extent as some people claim to. Now, one thing I do is I create visual arts. There's other things I'd like to do in my life which are in no small part due to my unusual background that I've discussed. So when it comes to that, I haven't found people who, well, I haven't found many people who've traveled like that, let alone who've traveled like that and look like me, and then say, yes, now I'm going to be inspired by what that person did and follow in their footsteps. So there's been situations where I had to try to understand, how do I do something that's relatively new or relatively unheard of? So I do this by piecing in things that I'm like, okay, I want to do this. Can I find somebody else doing this action? And I look at what they do and I say, okay, how can I apply that into my life? For the drawing, for example, like I recall this memory as a child of my dad drawing this horse or something and being rather impressed with it. And I think it was with his left hand, and I'm right-handed, I'm predominantly right-handed. But due to that, I think in part, and also cracking my growth plate my freshman year of high school, end of the freshman year of football season, cracked my growth plate. And ever since then, I was like, oh, what if I can't actually draw with my hand? Because I had it in like a soft cast and I couldn't actually use it. So I was like, I can't use my left. So occasionally I'll practice with my left hand. Now, this is the kind of thing where you see those two things. And one thing, fatherlessness is an issue in the Black community. And that could be part of why LeBron James, he before was accurately pointing out that he is a hero to so many people. That might be why so many people are going to these situations and looking at that and saying, hey, this Black Panther is what's inspiring me. Barack Obama is seeing some male figure in my life that looks like me. That missing hole of the father, which is a massive missing hole, but that's going to be a separate video in and of itself. But yeah, it's a horrible situation. But so that the growth plate injury got me to decide, let me actually practice in my left. Occasionally I'll practice in my left. And if you haven't drawn, I can probably draw better with my left hand than you can with your dominant hand. Now, I also get with part of this. Part of the reason I can draw that well with my left hand is because I've seen my right hand draw, even though I don't look at my hand while I'm drawing, but I have that muscle memory, I have that experience, and having that, from seeing that, I can kind of try to transpose that onto my left and kind of get that situation. So I'm not discounting the fact that lived experience, learned things, taking in data points, examples, etc., etc. Taking in those things does help somebody be able to do something. So, back to this. More things that I've done that are not necessarily seeing people like me. I've read books. And when you read books, fantasy books, fiction books mostly, they don't have images. They're things, okay, well, of course, as a kid, I started with picture books. Then from the picture books, I grew up, I was in Paris and I was in France, and you had access to things like Asterix and Obelix. You had access to Tintin. Oh, the Tintin film, amazing. I wish they'd make more. But anyway, there was things like that. There was other comic books, and then Olivier Tom, which I found out was Captain Tsubasa, which is an anime. I didn't know back then that these were animes, but they had the animes on TV. There, the animes were mostly sport-based animes, like Olivier Tom, Captain Tsubasa. No, Captain Tsubasa might be an American football one, but I think it was Captain Tsubasa, but that was a soccer one. So I saw that and I was like, I was inspired that we'd go out and we'd play football, we'd play soccer with my friends and my brother and things like that, and it would inspire us. That's something that we'd kind of do. And then we got to the point where I'd start reading those, started reading more comic books, started reading manga, started getting into that a lot more. I got into animation. I got into creating my own stuff. I started drawing as a kid. I just never really stopped. Also got into the point where now video games come in. Started playing role-playing games in specific, especially the ones where you get into a role and you play it. And these are little creatures that don't even exist, or at the start of it, the Nintendo days, the Atari days, it was just these little sprites. I mean, like something like Pac-Man. It's just this little thing going across the screen, wacka 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 wacka. And then you get to the point where it's role-playing games where you get to the point where you can change the name of the character. It's starting to look more like a human being, and you can relate more to it, and you can put your name into it. And your character may not speak. Like in Chrono Trigger, your character couldn't speak, but people are interacting with it, and so the things that's not said by your character that can put you into that character more, and then people interacting with it that makes you feel like you're in there. And it gets to the point with something like Mass Effect, where you can go in and you can design pretty much exactly the same face. You have things like Madden football games where people can put themselves in and start a whole career and things like that. So these things have existed, and I can see the transition going from something where it doesn't look like you, and it goes to the point where it looks more like you, and then you can kind of relate to that. You can kind of get something more out of that. But I think I have that background where I've been able to relate to things that don't necessarily look like me, and be able to project myself or be able to imagine myself in that position and gain some kind of inspiration from that. And I think you will kind of see some of this. I would be interested to see if there are any studies done to see people who've read fantasy books, fiction books, and things like that. How much are they able to, or how much are they supportive of or self-identifying as an identity politics type of person? How many feminists are actually people who really like fantasy books? How many people in Black Lives Matter movement, those people who are strong in that movement who go out there and, what are these people called? Activists. How many of the activists are actually people who are familiar with playing role-playing games and playing all these things? Even though I do think they are actually live action role-playing in some of these situations. But that's, I should talk about that in a separate video. A lot of video material coming out of this. So I get it. What's said and what is not said are both important. I think to a lesser extent, who says it is important. The most important on this thing is who hears it and what they think about the person who said it. Because a lot of these things, what if it was just quotes? There's so many of these videos going out, great idea for videos, where people go out and say, hey, what do you think about this quote this president said? And then they're like, this is a hateful thing. I can't believe this person said this. And one of the reasons they say that is because a lot of these people understand President Donald J. Trump is the actual president at this point. Then they say, oh no, this was something Barack Obama said. And then they're like, oh, you see the reaction. So people just assume that because it's coming from a certain person, it's taken in a certain way. Because of what that person looks like in their mind, they're going to take that in a whole different way. So yeah, definitely a lot of video material coming out of this, and I definitely want to get to my actual project soon, because look, virtual reality is here. And then soon, if not already, you'll be able to virtually see yourself doing virtually anything when it comes to the actual game world. Like already something like with Final Fantasy 15 has done some things that I really, if you've played Final Fantasy 15 or know some stuff about it, then when I start talking about the project I've had in mind for some years, you'll kind of be like, oh, that's kind of like Final Fantasy 15. And yes, those bastards, they stole it. Those damn Japanese ninjaed my idea away. Anyway, so I get that some people say that, hey, it's about what you look like. But the confusing thing is, some of these very same people who say it's about what you look like will go and say that, hey, we're all the same. Race isn't an issue. Then they'll go on and say, hey, no, black excellence. Black excellence is something that speaks to us. So is race not an issue? Are we all the same, or is races different? If you were like, yeah, black excellence, we need to have black only spaces and things like this, then is it really a bad thing if white people, however you want to define that, say white excellence is also an issue, white pride is also an issue, we need to have white spaces only? Because if you say one, the other one's going to happen. Now, talking about an example of that, and why I define black as race and culture, mostly culture and not necessarily just race. Because like I say, I don't think people in Africa are considered black. When Black Lives Matter comes up, they're not necessarily talking about black. Even Black Lives Matter themselves, as many people pointed out, several people pointed out in the comment section of the previous Black Panther video, most Black Lives Matter people don't really speak for most black people or African American people, their views. Most African American people and black people are a lot more conservative than a lot of the people in this identity politics type movements, these collectivist type things. So look at this example. So if you need somebody who looks like you to be inspired, or you say black is mostly about the race or the skin color, Look at someone like Eminem. Is Eminem, the rapper, part of black excellence? I mean, he definitely partakes in hip hop culture. He creates part of it. He maintains hip hop culture. So if hip hop culture is considered to be part of blackness, then how is one of the best rappers alive not part of black excellence? So if you're still sticking to the thing where you're saying black excellence is a race thing, then I'm saying Eminem should be part of black excellence. Definitely a lot more than someone like me would be, because I haven't really partaken in much that he would kind of claim to be part of. No, well, it depends. What do you consider black culture to be? So, cannot someone like Eminem actually go out and inspire black children that can rap, that want to be more? Like if Eminem is going out and doing philanthropic things, why can't he also inspire people? If he goes out and speaks about actual issues, he's talking about politicians. So do people have to see someone like LeBron James because he looks like them saying things about Trump? Is that what they're going to be like? Yes, now politically we are activated. Even though somebody who's a rapper who maybe cannot play basketball, cannot play sports whatsoever, but they're coming out of the inner city and then they look up to Eminem's ability because he does have an amazing ability with his words and his musical making ability. So he has that kind of situation. Why can't he reach out more to that guy in the inner city than someone like LeBron James would? And my argument is he would, because I think a lot of people are more concerned with what people do, the content of their character, rather than their appearance. So try to pull yourself away from this identity politics thing. So yeah, what wasn't said about what Michelle Obama said years before she said that comment about being proud of a country, or seconds after she said that, does change how you take what she said in that statement. It does not necessarily define completely what she meant by that statement, but I do understand, I'm not going to discount the fact that it does change the way people perceive what was said. Now, I think it's also important to understand that, again, this is a light spoiler. If you haven't seen the movie, you might get some spoiler out of this, but I'll try to keep it as spoilerness. I'll keep the the spoiliness as low as possible. I like trying to invent words. And that's important, trying to be understood, but inventing of words may not really help that. But anyway, let's keep going with this. So I do understand that it's important at the end of Black Panther, and when he is asked by someone, someone's good. He's asked by someone who he is, and what do you answer in that situation? What's the answer? Is he the king? Is he African? Is he an Avenger? Is he a superhero? Is he Chala? Is he their neighbor? Is he alt-right or alt-white? Or as somebody pointed out, alt-right is just political, so it doesn't necessarily have to be race-based. Is he a role model for blacks? Like, yeah, he's all of those things because different people are going to perceive him in a different way. But he's also none of those things at the same time. And I think the point depends on more who the person is than who the person you are than who the person is. That make any sense? Okay, thanks for bearing with me with this video. And I think the visuals in this video, when I'm recording these things, I have some visuals in mind sometimes, but don't necessarily have them out. But I think the visuals were going to be from my walk in Kangemi area last night, coming back from the movie. And I'll try to put some more videos and material of Kenya and Nairobi. If you guys are actually interested in seeing more of Nairobi, more of Kenya, more of Africa, there's a lot of African YouTubers doing a lot of focusing on Africa, doing a lot of interesting things that I think may give you a lot more insight into the cultures and cities than I can. As I mentioned, I used to say I'm just consider myself an earthling because I just traveled around so much, but it's been mostly Western countries, as I mentioned, France. Then Kenya was a colony, and then the United States of America was people who left the West. So it's kind of had that nature, but tinged with different things. Being in the New World in the United States of America, being the older, even the prehistory world here in Kenya, and having that influence with the Western European Greco-Roman kind of cultures and things, and then going to see how it is there. So some of my points of views and ideas are, of course, mine and may not really apply that much to many other people out there. But part of me making this is to have people come out and say, hey, this is how it is for me, or oh, I relate to what you said. And that is also my admission to saying that, look, I do get that certain people are talking about things, seeing other people do things, get some kind of inspiration for them. And if I can just have some conversations with people from this, I'm successful. I'm happy with that. But I personally also have a playlist called This Is. And I started it when I was here in Nairobi, but it's a kind of thing where I thought of where I go to places and things that I see about that place and oh, this is rather indicative of this place. So you guys can check that playlist out. The links will be below to that playlist. So if you're more interested in seeing things about Africa, while I'm still here in Nairobi, I'll be doing things about that. While I go to other places, I'll continue that This Is and then cover This Is or whatever location I may be in at that time. So feel free to check that out. So it's also going to be links to the merchandise store where I put up different shirts and things like that. And Black Panther review will be coming up, so please check that out when it comes up. Movie was great. Go watch it. But one last thing. Oh man, there's this one meme. Ugandan Knuckles, and one of the comments on the previous video was just like, show us the way. And people on the left, people who are like on this whole, we have to see people who look like me. Do you realize you are literally being, the left can't meme, but they are memes. When you're coming out and saying, oh, we need to have somebody who looks exactly like, or who looks like me for me to actually go out and be inspired to do this thing, you realize you are literally being Uganda Knuckles. You're literally being, show us the way. You're literally going out and saying, show us the way, instead of like making the way. But anyway, there's a lot of other people out there who can show you some things about the life that you want to see and you want to be like and you get inspiration from. Please check them out. Like, share, and subscribe. Links below to the merchandise store. I'll have a Patreon coming up maybe by the end of this week. I need to figure out an appropriate schedule for posting and an appropriate schedule of tiers and rewards and stuff to give you guys who decide to be my soon to be very, very appreciated donators. And already, thank you guys so much for commenting. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And that's it for now. Goodbye.